Hi there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I have a very small craft area, and so I have chosen to go with a specific few inks for my collections. Now, I have 3, and all for different reasons. I have one dye ink, which is the Simon Hurley dye inks. I also have some Distress Oxide inks, and these are kind of a hybrid. And then I have these VersaFine Clair inks, which are a pigment ink. And by the way, I do not have full sets of any of these, and I definitely don't need full sets of them. But I did get in 3 new colours. This is the Medieval Blue, Purple Delight, and Rainforest. And these were just colours that over time I noticed that I kind of had gaps that I was looking for. So I just take my label maker, print out some labels to go on the side so it's easy for me to tell from the side, and then I am good to go. Now, as I was stamping these out, I want to see how they stamp. I want to kind of get used to the colour. Is it true to the top? Is it not true to the top of the lid? These are pretty close. I think this is a pretty good match for inks. And I like to stamp them out to kind of get to know them. Now, this stamp here is from the All the Birthday stamp set. I have used this so many times in my videos because I love this versatile stamp set. And I love trying it out with the square stamp because for 2 reasons. One, I get to see how it stamps with fine detail because those happy birthday letters are quite fine detailed. But 2, it also has all that solid area around it, and I want to make sure that my inks don't need re-inking, even though they come brand new, and I'm sure it's not the store's intention. Sometimes they need re-inking, sometimes they have a whole lot of ink and they're really juicy, so I like to kind of get to know them before I start. Now, I did decide to actually swap out one of the colours, and I'm going to have Warm Breeze, which is that top colour there instead, but the other 2 are new ones to me. And whilst I was stamping out this little sample sheet, I knew I needed a card for this afternoon, so it needed to be kind of quick. It was for a guy, and I needed a lot of people to be able to sign it, so I got a good idea for how I might be able to create something quite quickly. So I am stamping this out using my stamping platform, and I have stamped it. That very top one there is actually double stamping, and whenever you double stamp something, although you tend to get a really good impression and a very solid impression, you also darken the color, and I didn't want that deep dark color. This is quite a dark color as is, and so I was determined to just make sure I did one stamping. And that is one good thing about VersaFine Clair inks, is that they are very solid stamping. They are meant for stamping fine detail. They are brilliant inks when it comes to stamping, whereas on the other hand, I find that the Distress Oxides they're okay for stamping, but you're not always going to get crisp, clean results, whereas I can rely on the VersaFine ones to give me that result when I need it. So all I'm doing is just shifting my stamp here. I know you can definitely shift the paper, but for this one, I just kind of had it in my head. I was shifting the stamp and I was happy as is. And you can see when I pop it down, I just pop it directly down. Then I close the door to pick up the stamp. I get a little bit of leftover ink there, but that just helps me on my way. And I also think something else that I was thinking was that often when we are card making, we like to kind of make, I feel like often we bring in lots of stamp sets or lots of stencils and lots of different products, but sometimes it's really nice just to have the one stamp set and be able to create the entire card just using not so many supplies. So that was kind of my goal today as well, to not complicate things, to keep it very simple. And by no means is this kind of a breakthrough technique, but it created what I thought was a really cute looking card in the end, perfect for a guy, and it worked out really well and was very, very simple. So here's where you can see these stamps here are nice and bold around the outside, and I'm going to separate them all so that I can cut them. Now, if you had a square die, then you are going to be able to do this nice and easy too. But for interest's sake, and just to keep challenging myself, I'm just going to use my trimmer. Now, I want to trim off some of the color from around the edge, but I need to make it even on every single edge. So I ignore the measurements because all I'm focusing on is the stamp. And I'm actually using some of the lines that is inside the top cutting thing that I fold down and fold up there. There's like lines etched into that, and that is what I'm lining these up against. And you can see here when I line up all of these ink pieces that actually they line up really perfectly, and it means that I'm taking the same amount of ink off each side. So if you had a die, of course, go ahead, use that, and that's going to work absolutely perfectly. But this is just another way to do things, and it means that you don't always have to have dies in your stash, especially for shapes like squares and things, which can easily be cut with your trimmer. Now moving on to the next stage of this card, this is some fun foam here. This is like kids fun foam. This is I think this might be the 3mm one. I have some scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive sheets here. Now you do not have to do it this way. I did not have much time. I needed to get this card done quickly, and so this was kind of my best way to do it and most efficient way. However, I'll show you in a minute, there are lots of different ways to do this. This is basically kind of cheating. So on this big sheet of fun foam here, which I'm not going to use all of it, but I have 2 sheets of the double-sided adhesive, and once I have one sheet down, I'm going to cut this out with some nice long bladed scissors, and then I'm going to flip it over to the other side and put some adhesive on the other side, and this means that I have ready to go sticky fun foam. This is going to give me some really even, clean dimension on my little happy birthdays, and it just means that I don't have to kind of go through each individual piece. I don't have to wait for liquid glue to dry or any kind of wiggling and things. So you can definitely use liquid glue to do this. You can definitely use like double-sided adhesive tape. You can definitely use whatever is in your stash. However, today, as I said, I was going for quick and easy, so I'm just going to use my little Tim Holtz trimmer. This is the 8.5 inch one. I see that they have come out with a 6.5 inch one, but honestly, this one works perfect for me, and I didn't really have a need for anything else, so I will leave that one for the minute. As I know I've mentioned quite a few times, my craft space is small, so it means that the products that are in my craft space need to be multitasking, and they need to have a real purpose to be able to stay here. It also means that I need to choose carefully when I do purchase a product. For example, if I think I need something, I write it down on a little wants list. I have it on a piece of sticky tape up by my craft space, and I often will just kind of put a little mark next to it every time I think I need to reach for it or grab for it or wish that I had that kind of thing. And then that way I know that after a month or two, if it's something that I really, really need, then I can probably go ahead and work out a way to get it. Now obviously this is just a personal choice, and I do it also to kind of slow myself down and stop any impulse buying or spending. It just helps me out too. I'm trying to be mindful of all of the things that I bring into my world and into my house. Now, once I have got all of the adhesive on the back of my little stamps here, I also did a plain white one to go in the very center. And the ease of this is that I can just literally peel off the back of that adhesive and stick these down. Now, I did decide that I would just eyeball these. I was pretty happy with the layout, and with squares I find it pretty easy to kind of eyeball them. And honestly, I don't think anybody measures in the end. I don't think anybody's sitting there thinking that something was a little bit off or a little bit wonky. I did note that to the right hand side and to the bottom of this card, I'm leaving a little bit of an extra gap because that's just kind of how the card worked out, and I will just trim that down. Nobody will be any the wiser, and it doesn't matter, so I will just trim both sides down to make my card look nice and even, and as I said, no one will be any the wiser. I put my white square right there in the middle, and I think that extra dimension that the foam gives it is just that little extra bit, because the card is pretty plain and simple. It's nice and quick and easy. You could also, if you didn't have this stamp set, you would be able to just stamp and either white heat emboss or something like that onto some coloured cardstock, and you'd be away laughing as well. So lots of different ways that you can turn any sentiment into kind of the main feature or main focal point of a card, even though it's not a really big stamp. So just to finish this off, I took a couple of pieces of twine here and tied them together into a gorgeous big bow. I am pulling this really tight so that I know it definitely won't come unraveled at any stage, no matter what happens to the card. As I said, lots of people need to sign it, so it's going to go through lots of hands, and I want nothing to be able to come off or come loose or come away with this card here. So I'm using some liquid glue, the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, which is really, really strong once it dries, and it's not going anywhere. I will leave links to the items I've used in today's video in the description box below this video, but other than that, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!